Curricular practical training, we often say CPT, and so you'll hear a lot of people refer to it as CPT, but the real name is Curricular Practical Training. Just a few things about this is that it is curricular, which means it's part of the curriculum. It is practical, which means it's useful towards your degree, and it is training, so it's an opportunity for you to grow in your skills and experience. So those are three important words, and all of them have a lot of meaning that are quite important. So today we're going to go over kind of what CPT is and the basics, and then we're going to talk about the process that you'll follow if you're interested in partaking in this benefit for your F1 status. And we'll talk about some important dates along with that process, and then we'll have time for question and answer. So let's jump right in. I still see we have a few more people joining. So if you're just joining, welcome. And we're just about to get started. So here we go. Curricular practical training is work authorization for F1 students in good status and good standing. And what we usually think of as curricular practical training is an internship. And it's important to note that internships should not be independent contractors, which is what we sometimes refer to as a 1099, that's a tax term. And the reason for that is that it's a training opportunity. And so internships should have a training relationship where the company or the organization that you're working for has a supervisorial relationship with the interns, and that gives them an opportunity to learn and grow and do work and learn from their experience. So independent contractors do not qualify for that because they don't have that training relationship. So another point is that, again, it must be practical towards your studies, and so it has to be related to your major. And so sometimes it's really, really clear, and then sometimes it's not as clear. And so we're here to help with that and answer any questions that you have about whether an opportunity is related to your major. We also rely on your departments, your advisor in your department to have a look at this opportunity and say, yes, this is a good opportunity that's definitely related to their studies, because obviously we can't be experts in every single degree that NC State offers. So we do rely on your departments, and your departments will be part of the authorization process. Great. And to introduce one of the biggest parts of this, there are some internships that are required by departments, but it's quite rare at NC State to have an actual class internship requirement. So most of our students who engage in CPT will do so through the co-op program. And for that, I wanted to hand it over to our wonderful Heather Dellinger, who is a really strong advocate for international students. She works in the Career Development Center, and she's just an amazing partner, and she does a lot to help students get ready for CPT and get it all spooled up and everything. So we really appreciate her, and yeah, I'll hand it over to you, Heather, for a minute to explain a little bit about what the CDC does.
Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to be able to be part and just speak with you briefly. Again, my name is Heather Dellinger. I'm one of the co-op coordinators in the Career Development Center. So just to reiterate and to make sure you are aware, of course, you have your professors and advisors in your degree programs, but every student has a career counselor and a career center that they can utilize. So please feel comfortable and please use the services of my office or your designated career center, depending on your major or college. Our office has a lot of information on the website, right? Please use EPAC also. It's not the only place to look for an internship or co-op or full-time job, but as an NC State student, it is certainly, I would say, the first place that you could look, or at least to start from there. And again, feel comfortable to make an appointment or do drop-in hours with your career counselor, anything from just a resume or a cover letter, technical things, to, what do I want to do with my career? This is my major, what can I do with it, right? The co-op program, we are an academic program and partner with the OIS happily, good partnership, right? So that the opportunity for students to be able to get these work experiences. So your academic department would review that first, and then it comes to my office. So that's our part in it. And the co-op program would be the course that many of the students who work through CPT would be enrolling in, right? So it's full-time, part-time. And again, you'll get more information through this program and feel free to ask questions. But again, encouraging you, please go and work with your career counselors, very caring and knowledgeable. Many of the career fairs and events are coming up this month or soon, right? So again, for the preparation, also once for the events and for the internship opportunities when you're interviewing for those jobs, and when you have different offers, please feel comfortable to talk to us, talk to your academic department or OS before making a decision. Not only do we want you to feel comfortable with it, to make sure it's appropriate and meaningful to you, but also how to act professionally through the entire process, not reneging on offers and making sure you're comfortable and committed before you would accept an offer. All right.
Thank you so much, Heather. And I'm going to use this as an opportunity to very quickly jump over to the CDC website, just because I really want students to be able to jump in here and be familiar. There's so many great resources. And as Heather said, there's specific resources. I mean, you have your department and you have an advisor over there that you can connect with, a counselor that you can connect with and talk with about what you need. Again, they do have a lot of information about co-op on their website. They also have a lot of other information that's really valuable, so including EPAC, as Heather mentioned. So it's a really great resource and something that you should use. And before I jump off of our websites, I want to pull us over to our OIS website and just remind students that we have a ton of information about CPT and the process on our website. So you don't need to remember everything that we're saying today, because you can find a lot of the information here. But I just want you to have a good chance today to get an overview of the process and kind of understand what it is, and of course, ask questions if you have them. But again, our website and the CDC website are great resources for you as you go through this process. So, one question that we get a lot right at the beginning is about part-time or full-time work. So I wanted to address that right at the beginning. And it can be a little bit confusing because it's a little bit different for a few different situations. But in general, for graduate students, the rule is that during the summer, you can work part-time or full-time, unless it's your final semester. And if it's your final semester, it's considered a normal term, and so you would only be able to work part-time. And then during the fall and the spring, you're going to be limited to part-time work. And this is because there's a requirement for you to stay engaged in your program and to take your classes and everything like that. So for our undergraduate population, it's a little bit different. In the summer, they can do part and full-time, but actually in the fall and the spring, they need to do full-time, as they're going to engage in a slightly different version of the co-op program, where they have alternating semesters of studying and working. And so if you're an undergraduate student, it's a really cool way to engage in the program. Again, just talk with the CDC about your options and what that would look like. And as a note, for all students who have internship requirements with their degree, we know who you are, and we've worked with your departments, and we're going to do our best to follow the specific requirements of your department's internship. And that way we'll make sure that you're able to do everything that you need to do for that. And so your situation might be a little bit different, but don't worry. Just talk with your OIS advisor, and they'll be able to guide you as far as everything that's allowed and available and when to do it and things like that. So as for the process of CPT, there's one really, really good thing about this process is that even though it is, an application for off-campus employment, so it's got some steps to it and everything like that. But one of the good things about it is it's not something that we have to send off to the government, right? We don't have to apply for something through USCIS and wait for them to process and everything like that. And so it does all happen at NC State, which is fantastic for you. And it makes the process a lot more streamlined. It makes it a lot easier for students. It makes it, free, and that you don't have to pay money to apply, and you can get your result much faster than applying through the government. But it does take some time, and I want you to be aware that I think one of the biggest problems that students end up having in the whole process is just that it takes a little bit longer than they expect it to take. And it's not the kind of thing where you can say, great, I got an internship that starts next week, let me apply for CPT. That's really stressing the time that we have to do this. So what you need to do is when we do this process, it's a 3-step process. So you apply at one place, right? You go into Global Home, you apply for CPT, but then there's actually 3 steps that happen, which are shown in this little infographic that we have here. The first thing that happens is it goes to your department. And again, your department, they're the ones that know who you are, they know what you're studying, and they know how this opportunity relates to that. And so they're going to be who we rely on to say, yes, this job relates to this major, these classes, kind of this degree. And so they're a really important part of the approval process. They're also, as you can see at the bottom, I put question mark days. We don't really know how long it takes. We don't know all of your advisors' schedules. We don't know what they're up to. And so we can't really guarantee or predict how long it's going to take them to review that. We definitely recommend that if you're interested in an internship, that your advisor is a valuable person to talk to about that. Your academic advisor in your department, and they're going to be a good person to go to and say, even before you apply, you might want to talk to them and say, hey, is this a good internship for me? Is this going to give me the skills and the experience that's going to help me in my studies and help me in my career after? So if they already know about you and they already know about the opportunity, it'll be much faster for them to be able to approve that. After they approve it, one important thing will happen. You'll get an email that says your department has approved it and that it's been sent to the CDC. So you'll know the progress by those emails because they're going to tell you what's going on. So after your department approves it, and if they have any issues, they'll bounce it back. They'll contact you. They'll contact us, and we'll talk about it. But after they do approve it, it'll move on to the CDC. So Heather and her team will do their part of the approval, and they'll review everything. They'll make sure that everything's good from their side, and then they'll approve it. And their processing time, just as OIS is generally, we say, equal to or less than 10 business days. And so oftentimes they are much faster than that, but sometimes, when they get hundreds of applications, it's going to take, all of those 10 days, and sometimes even a little bit more, right? Just because we have a limited number of staff and sometimes we get a lot of applications. So it's important to make sure that you apply ahead of time. So as soon as the CDC reviews it and they approve it, you'll automatically get another email that says your application has passed the CDC approval and now it is being sent to OIS for review and final approval. So at that point, it'll come to our office and then we'll do our review. And again, if we have any issues or anything, we'll reach out to you. And again, our processing time is equal to or less than 10 business days, but we're the same as the CDC. Sometimes when we get a lot, it can take a little bit longer, especially in the absolute busiest times of year. So as you can see, this whole process is, easily 3 weeks and could be even longer, really depending on the department process. So for most students, that's totally fine, right? They've got the internship well ahead of time. They can put their application in and it's no problem. But for some students, when things move fast and they happen fast, I know the CDC and our office, we do our best to accommodate that, but there's no guarantees that we're going to be able to get it done. Fortunately, that if we do get an application and we're not able to process it by your start date, we will change the start date to the date that it's issued. And so you can still start working. You don't have to submit a whole new application or anything like that. We'll just move the date to match the day that the approval is issued. Because, one important note, you cannot start working until you get that final approval from OIS. So, as the first part of this process seems relatively simple, apply for CPT, great. So what's in that? What does that entail? So there's a few things that you need to do. I think the biggest one is really getting the internship, right? And so that's where you want to utilize the resources at the CDC and talk to your career counselor and use EPAC and visit the fairs and everything like that. There's a lot of resources out there for you, but you can also explore opportunities on your own. You can search online, you can go to websites, you can apply, and basically, yeah, you need to find an internship. And so once you get an internship, you'll get an offer letter, and we have a detailed list of all the required information that needs to be included in that offer letter. And most companies are really they understand the situation, and if you give them the list of the things that are needed on the letter, they'll have no problem providing those for you. And so once you have your internship and your offer letter, we have another form that is kind of a permission form that says that you're allowed to talk about this opportunity with your advisor in your program, which is part of the curricular practical training, kind of all that. And so you'll need to get that employer form signed by the employer and submit that in your application. You also need to register for your classes. So we recommend that you definitely have your next whatever semester classes registered for. So if you're going to take summer classes, you wouldn't need to register for classes because it's not a required term, but you would still need to register for your co-op class, which is the COP 500 or 501. And then if you're applying for the fall or the spring, generally, we need to see that you've already registered for your other classes. Again, if you're doing full-time because of something, then we'll talk to you about what we need to see for that. So once all that's ready, then you can submit your application in Global Home, and that process that we just talked about will start. So there's definitely things for you to do up until that point. And for our new students who maybe have just joined us in August, a lot of them, you'll probably be thinking about doing a summer internship, and that's fantastic. So you do need to wait those 2 full semesters before you can do CPT anyway. So the summer is a great time to start. And you're probably going to start looking for internships this winter, though. There's career fairs happening very soon, and some of those will have good opportunities for internships. And so we see a lot of internship offer letters that are signed in December, and they don't start until the summer. And it's okay if you don't. We see a lot that are signed much later. But just to let you know, people are already, well, maybe not quite yet, but very soon they're going to be looking for summer internships. So you can go ahead and start that process whenever you're ready, really. And that's great. If you are applying for the spring, we can go ahead and look at some dates. And so these are some specific dates for you. Well, most of them, but some of them, this is also a picture of what it's going to look like for each of the following semesters. So for our spring applications, our application portal will open on October 31st. So if you're going to apply for a spring CPT, that's when you can start, right? You can start your application then. We can't accept spring applications before that. And we accept those all through November, December, and then up until January 23rd. January 23rd is the deadline for full-time CPT. So most students aren't going to apply for full-time CPT in the spring because of the requirements that we told you before. But there are some students, for example, undergraduate students in the co-op program, students in programs that require internships that are going to want full-time CPT in the spring. You have to apply before January 23rd. It is a requirement. We can't accept any applications after that. And so make sure that you get your application in on time. Sometime about 5 weeks after that, roughly, we will close the deadline for part-time CPT. One of the requirements of the program is that your opportunity should be at least 6 weeks. And so you can't apply too late in the semester because then you wouldn't have time to complete the 6 weeks. And then soon after that, we'll start opening it up for summer CPT. So any of our students who are thinking about summer CPT, and that's why you're here, just be looking for that. We'll update our website in the spring with the specific date. But I highly advise that you're ready to go right at the beginning, just to make sure. On the right side of this page, we have the working dates. And so these are the dates that you could work based on spring CPT. So the first day that you can work is the day after the graduation ceremony for the previous semester. So this fall, December 17th is commencement or graduation. And so for spring CPT, it can start from December 18th. And then it can go until the day before classes start in the summer, which is May 17th. So it can go until May 16th. This is assuming that it's not your last semester. If it is your last semester, you would have to use the last day as the last day of the term, which is May 6th, I believe. Yeah, it must be, because summer working dates you can see start from May 7th and go to August 20th. So those are the dates that you would be eligible to work for those things. Fantastic. So I know there's a lot of information. So if you do have questions, again, you can go ahead and type them in the chat or prepare them for our question and answer portion at the end of the presentation. A few more notes about CPT. Number one is there is a GPA requirement, 3.0 for graduate, 2.5 for undergraduate. If you feel that you're close or you're going to be close to this, talk to your OIS advisor and just let us know, and then we'll see, what we can do. It's the kind of thing where you're required to be in good academic standing, and so if your GPA has been going up a lot and there's a good chance you're going to be there by the start of the CPT, then we'll do our best to work with you on that. As I mentioned before, you do need to wait two full semesters before you can apply for CPT. So for any students that started in August, you would need to wait until the summer in order to start CPT. You can apply during the spring semester, you have to, right, for summer CPT, but you wouldn't be able to start working until that summer semester starts. And if you're going to be in your final semester, it's very rare for final semester students to be able to do CPT that's full-time, right? Likely you could do part-time, but full-time CPT is generally not allowed unless it's specifically required for part of your program. So some of our PhD students might end up needing to do full-time in their final semester because of research that they're doing through CPT. And some of our programs that require internships, based on the timing of the internship, it may be required that you do some of that during the final semester. And so we definitely want to make sure that the work that you're doing is not interfering with your ability to succeed in your studies. But I know some students end up having the opportunity to do maybe a full-time CPT in the summer and then also do some work on campus as well, and that's okay. Other things, we already talked about the extension deadline. Oh no, we didn't talk about extension deadline. So just before the next semester CPT opens, we'll close maybe 10 days before, or sometimes a few weeks before, depending on the calendar. We'll close the extension application. And so if you want to extend your CPT, which happens quite a bit actually, you'll get a job offer and it'll be to a certain date, and then you start working and it's going great, and they're like, oh, you're amazing, we love you, and it's a great internship. We want you to stay the maximum amount of time that you can during this semester. Just get that to us, as quickly as you can, as soon as we open the extensions. That way you can make sure you get your extension, because we can't accept extensions once the new applications have opened up. So make sure you keep an eye out for those dates. Great. I don't see any questions in the chat yet. Again, people might be waiting to add those. So I'm going to keep moving, but if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat and we can get to it. And again, we'll have a time at the end for more questions. So we have some common problems that students have. And this is just a way to kind of make the process smoother. We want you to be able to apply quickly and get started quickly and make the process as easy as possible. I think, one of the biggest issues that we have sometimes is that students will miss their start date. And most of the time it's because they didn't get their application in, that early. They got their application in kind of late, and then goes through the department and then CDC and then my office at OIS. And it just takes some time. And so absolutely apply early, and it could be that, you apply early and then your department reviews it and everything looks good, and the CDC reviews it, and actually they need to contact you about something that needs to be adjusted, and then they approve it, and then OIS sees it and we say, oh, there's something that we need that's not quite right, and then we need to adjust it. And so, the process can just take some time. And so make sure that you're on top of it. You're watching for those emails that say it's been approved by your department, it's been approved by the CDC, and then you'll know where it's at. And if you have a question, you'll know who to reach out to, and just do your best to respond to those things. Because if we do need some more information, if you can reply quickly, then we'll be able to get it taken care of and get that to you as early as possible. As I did say before, though, if you do miss your start date, don't start working, because you're not authorized unless you have that I-20 that says you're authorized. And do know that you don't need to like reapply or anything like that, that as soon as the authorization comes through, we will change the start date to the day that we approved it. And so you'll be able to start working from that day or likely the next day based on what's going on. So another thing that we see a fair amount, and I made it sound a little bit negative here, my offer letter was rejected. And what that means is that we send your offer letter back, or we send you a note that says, hey, your offer letter is missing something important. And so again, I know we talked about this already, but there are required things that they must be on the offer letter for us to accept it. We have those listed very clearly on our website about applying for CPT. And so just make sure that those things are all on there. And you can, again, send them a screenshot, send them the website, send them the list, make it easy for them, right? If you tell the representative that you're working with, hey, I need a letter from my school and it has to have these 3 things, or but I think it's 6 things, bam, 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 bam. Make a nice little list, easy for them to see, easy for them to check off each one that's on there, give it to you, and then we have no problems. One of the most common things that we've seen recently is that a student will report that they're working remotely, but on the offer letter, it doesn't say that you're going to be working remotely. And as you'll see on our website, that is one of the requirements. We need to have your work location. So if you were going to go into the office, where would that be? The company's address. And then we need to have, if you're working remotely, we need to have your address. And on the offer letter, it needs to say like working remotely from 123 Hillsborough Street or whatever. So again, check our website, make sure you've got all those. We do have some issues sometimes with the employer form. You'll see the employer form, I'd say 95% of the time, it's absolutely no issue. They can sign it right away. Some of the bigger companies have had some issues with some of the language in the form. And the CDC has been fantastic about helping students work with the employer, explaining to the employer what it means, and getting them to sign off on that. So if you ever have an employer that says, hey, we can't sign this employer form, say, let me talk with the CDC and go and either email them or talk with them, and you can let me know too, and we'll figure out a solution, hopefully. I'd say, yeah, even when we've had issues, we've almost always been able to find a solution. So just let us know. Probably the biggest problem that you could possibly have, again, it would be working on a date that you're not authorized for. And this is a huge problem, like a most likely terminate your visa and have to leave the US, get a new visa, and come back kind of problem. Off-campus employment and employment in general is very strict about the requirements. And so you need to make sure you're following those. So you need to really be aware of the dates that are listed on your I-20. And make sure that you are absolutely not working on dates that are not listed on your I-20. In the example here, we say, oh, my fall CPT authorization ends on the 16th and my spring authorization starts on the 18th. Well, it's just one day in between. Can I work? No, you cannot. If you worked that day, we would likely be required to terminate your visa. It's a very serious thing. So the good news is that as long as you know about that, in November, then you can, talk to your OIS advisor and say, hey, they want me to work on the 17th. Is there any way that we can make this work? And if we can, we'll help you. We'll extend it or do whatever we can to make it happen. Or if we can't, we'll say it's absolutely impossible. Don't work that day and you won't have any problems. So the purpose with that is to avoid those problems. Great. So this has been a lot of information. I hope that it's useful information for you, but I know it's also a lot. And so I wanted to leave a fair amount of time for questions. And before I do that, I just want to hop over to our website again and remind you that we do have all of this information and more on our curricular practical training website. As you can see, we're going to have some Q&A sessions starting in October that are going to be great places to come and ask if you have questions about the application process or anything at all. You can come to those Q&A sessions. It'll be a little more casual environment than today, where we'll just go over questions that people have. And a lot of times, if you're just not sure about the process, it's good to come sit and kind of listen and see what people are thinking about and how they're looking at that. So that's a fantastic resource for you. So come to the CPT Q&A sessions. We also have how to apply for curricular practical training, and it leads you right through the steps that we've talked about today. And we also have a large section of FAQs. And so if you still have questions about what all these things mean, and you have specific questions about what's required, we have a lot of our answers on the website. And so that's a great place to go. And of course, we also have our advisors at OIS. And so if you have any questions and maybe you looked at the website and you're still not sure, that's great. Let me know. Or come to the Q&A session, or send a email to your OIS advisor, and we'll help you. We'll help you figure out